What's up, guys? We're back. It's the Wrestling Informer Show. I know it's been a while, but we are back together again. I don't know if that's to people's pleasure or to their chagrin, but we are back. I'm Kev Manning. I am part of the Lingus Mafia podcast. You can go to @Lingus Mafia, see all the nonsense there that connects you to everything. I'm along with your number one source for all of your wrestling news. He's the guy you love to hate, get kicked off Twitter, all that good stuff. That's Mr. Billy Body.
They don't hate me anymore. I don't think. I mean,
No, I mean, there's going to be, of course, what the people.
I think it's got to the point where the people that are still watching, the people that have made it this far, the people that were asking, "Where's the show?" I think they don't hate, obviously. And then there's those people who aren't even watching our show, who are from that other side of the community. And this is the whole thing. Like, people get very fixated with the news because obviously, like, I've been brought here to do the news. My segment on Conan's show is the hot news, right? And on Russo's stuff, I was doing the news. But eventually, through I did news on Steel Cage too, remember? But eventually we were able to break away, do our own shows, have our own opinions, have our own views, have our own style of doing a podcast. With me and Vince Russo, built up a rapport. We did news, yes, but we were able to parlay that into, a 45-minute, 1-hour show with essentially 3 or 4 news stories a week. Now, you can't get 45 minutes out of 3 or 4 news stories if you just solely focus on the news stories. So it is an extension of content. So when we get in those comments here going, just get to the news, that's counterintuitive to everything that I want to do. I don't want to necessarily do the news. The reason why we do it and why I have to do it is because I have it more so than anybody else. It's more reliable than everybody else because of the way I get it. Because I'm not one of these loser marks who is unsociable, who can't make friends with real people. Like, all these guys, they want, but there's no back and forth. And I've always explained the way I get news is to formulate real relationships, and people tell me, and I basically decided that I'll put it out here, not for the reason where I need a second income, because God knows I don't. If anything, over the last 5 years, I've lost money doing wrestling. I've lost Twitter accounts, particularly my verified account, which would have generated ridiculous income through my gambling numbers. And through this wrestling community, I lost it. Just lost another Twitter account. Don't care about that one because it was a wrestling account. And I'll lose another account again in 6 or 7 months' time. It's just going to happen because this community is soft. And that's the thing. I do the news because the people that are giving it to you, they are soft and they are woke and they are snowflakes. And what I noticed is they are using the news to get you to them. And then they are influencing you with their opinions. And too many people, we saw this through the pandemic, are not thinking for themselves. And they listen to what Sean Ross Sapp is reporting, and they listen to what Dave's reporting and everything, and then they start to tail their opinions. So they're the guys that you go to for news, and they're the guys that you go to tell you how to think. I don't tell you how to think. I tell you to think for yourself. And if you think for yourself, really think for yourself, then you probably don't want fat Japanese wrestlers wrestling against AEW guys. Like, do you really want that? Did you really enjoy that? Do you really want like 4 women's matches on SmackDown in a week or whatever? Like, do you want to see women that can't wrestle, or do you want to see women acting as valets or objects of sexual affection? Like, what do you really want to see? Because you've been brainwashed to think that you don't want to see women in bikinis and acting sexy on TV. You've been brainwashed to think you want to see them be crappy wrestlers, right? That's what you think. You've been brainwashed to think that you want to see fighting against midgets that were fired from WWE. Like, that's what you think you want to see. But do you really want to see it? If you engage your own brain, do you really want to see what they tell you that you want to see? And I'm just simply here to make you think for yourself. Like, I'm not telling you what to like and what not to like. But just really like what you like. And are you really happy with this content that they're telling you to like? That's the whole point of doing this. So I also hook you with the news, which is obviously better than the news that they're giving you because of the accuracy percentage and the relevance of it. But at the same time, like, I'm trying to almost start this counter revolution to the snowflakes and the wokeness and everything else, where I'm trying to just get you to think for yourself. Think what you really like. do you prefer wrestling now, or did you prefer wrestling before the PG era? Because what I saw is a lot where there was just a inkling and sprinkling of the fact that we might go to TV 14, and people were in their pants. If you're excited by that, then you are not engaged with what you're seeing right now, and you are craving something that got you into this in the first place. Because if you're telling me that you started watching in the last 10 years, then then you're lying to me. Like, you can't be this into wrestling where you're watching a wrestling YouTube channel, or you're watching a wrestling podcast, or listening to a wrestling podcast, or whatever, and you're a new fan, which anyone in the last 10 years I consider to be a new fan. You're not a new fan. You may not be an Attitude Era fan, but I'm personally, as Cav knows, I'm a fan of the Ruthless Aggression era as well. My journeys to WrestleMania began during the Ruthless Aggression era, when they were building Cena, Batista, Lesnar, Orton, etc. So, and the end of Shawn's career, the Undertaker's career, or not even the end. Like, I still think that they had some of their best years in the mid 2000s, Shawn and Taker and Triple H and those guys. So I feel that for me was a really good blend. Obviously, Attitude Era is Attitude Era, but I feel like the combination of the wrestling quality, along with the storylines, along with maintaining that non-PG element, I feel like the mix between 2000 and 2010 was better for me, my taste. But at the same time, I just don't think anybody can be watching this and be a fan post 2010. So if you're not, then why are you being influenced by this wrestling media? And as I said, they'll continue to get me off. But the people that believe in us and what we're doing and what we're saying will just continue to follow everywhere. They'll download the podcasts. They'll watch the videos. They'll follow again and again and again. It doesn't matter how many Twitter accounts I go through. And the thing is, I'll let you talk in a minute.
I got nothing to say. I'm following you.
The thing is with it is that these accounts, you set up the account, right? So you know what it was deleted for.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we can talk about that if you want, if you remember.
Yeah, I know exactly what it was, and this is where, like.
But what? Just tell people what it was.
Okay. You had said something along the lines, paraphrasing that.
And the only way you can usually shut people up, I find, is if they're financially reliant. Like, so if you're going to get sacked for an Instagram post or a Twitter post or a Facebook post or whatever, you find these are the type of people that are more observant. You can't hurt me financially. You can't hurt me by eliminating a Twitter account. I'll create a new one. I have like a cult following. Everybody will come back. If you're like, you either love me or hate me. There's no in between. Like, I don't think people just turn around and go, "Oh yeah, Billy's okay." No, it's like a love-hate thing. Like there'll be people looking now to see where the next account shows up or where it's going to be, like, or waiting for the show or whatever. And there'll be people that will be like, "Oh, thank he's gone. Hopefully, he never comes back." So like, it's only going to be two ways. So that's the thing. I'll continue to say what I'm going to say. Like, I'm fine. Look, I'm sitting in a house that I own. I'm driving a car that I own. Like, and people will continue to need to make money through sports betting because I'm the best at it. Like, everything I've done, I'm not going to half-ass anything that I do. At the wrestling news, if I'm going to do it, even though, as I said, it's a hook really to get people to think for themselves and for us to give an alternative viewpoint for wrestling, the wrestling news have turned out to be the best at it. When I went on reality TV, when I saw I wasn't going to win, I turned out to be the most hated villain on the show. When they gave me a porn series and I felt like I changed that for no extra money to make sure that it was the #1 most watched show in the world, for the #1 most downloaded porn series in the world. When they put me onto British wrestling, I stayed there and made sure that my bit on the show is the most watched show in most watched wrestling in the history of the UK since 1981. Like, I don't do halfway. So when people turn around and go, oh, you know, he's crying about this and he's crying about that, or why does he complain? Because my standards are not like yours. Like, it's not necessarily a good thing. Like, I'm not coming from this necessarily from, it may sound like I'm putting myself over. Actually, it's sometimes very stressful to say that you're the best at sports gambling, which I am, to say that you're the best at wrestling news, which I am, to say that, like, you know, to tout your previous accomplishments and say, I did this the best, I did this the best. It's an obsessive nature that it comes from. It's the fact that you can never be happy with what you've done. Like, you can only enjoy what you do. This is the worst thing about it. You can only enjoy what you do for 2-3 days at the most, and then you're on to the next thing. So if you're sitting there going, I'm gloating, or I'm putting myself over, or I'm full of myself. No, actually, like, it's a weird, obsessive thing where I can't chill out and just relax and do things. Like, for me, it's an obsessive thing to be the best at something. Yeah. Like, you know, when someone says, oh, someone's better than you at this, or be it sports betting, or oh, someone's so-and-so's news is whatever, like, it gets my back up straight away, and I'll go on the defensive and I'll start working towards, you know, making that not be the case. So I don't think it's necessarily a good quality. It's just a fact. Everything I just stated is a fact in terms of the wrestling news or the gambling or whatever. But at the same time, it causes me a lot of stress. It causes me, like, you know, a lot of, it takes a lot of anxiety, and, you know, it takes a lot of time in order to do that. It takes a lot of, like, focus away from things where I need to be relaxing. Like, I'm going to go on holiday now to the States for a month, and there's a ton of work to do. Like, I can't not do the work. Like, I'm going to be doing shows.
For people who don't know that you're going to Summerslam.
People don't know, but they do know.
If people don't know, that's where you're going. You're going to SummerSlam.
Yeah, I'm going to SummerSlam.
Among others.
I'm going to Ric Flair's last match. And then I'm going to Orlando for a couple of weeks. And this is the first time I'm missing the start of the soccer season. I'm not going to be around for the first game. So that's stressing me out as well. But yeah, I mean, me and Cav have got to do content while I'm in the US. Like, me, well, it'll be better for him because we'll be on the same time. Like, me and Cav I've got to do endless amounts of, like, soccer content while I'm there. So yeah, I mean, I'll continue to work on holiday. There's no holidays, real holidays for me all year round, where it's just a case of I'll stop completely. The only time that happened, and listen to this is what I was going to tell you, like, before we came on the air. So we had no Wrestling Informer, which wasn't really the plan, because wrestling, as we know, goes all year round. But this guy here got married and he had to move and whatnot. And I decided that
I'm in my mother's craft room right now, by the way.
Yeah, so I decided that I wasn't gonna replace him to do the show. I wasn't originally looking at a couple of people, but I decided to take the break, and this was simultaneous with the break that I took with the soccer show as well. So with all that time freed up, do you know what I did? I started going back to the gym. And when you start going back to the gym and you're putting in that time, as you know, you automatically come back and go, that I'm not eating that, or I'm not ordering that. You know, when you're actually doing it,
sure,
and then you don't let yourself order that food.
Yeah, obsessive compulsive.
Yeah. So, you know, it was. I've had 6 weeks off now. It's the soccer season's coming back. I think it's been about 6 weeks since you got married.
Yeah, it was May 21st.
Right. So I want you to, as you're on the show now, I want you to have a look at these. Let me stop that one and just send me these coming through. I tried to send you a video first. It was taking too long.
Oh, you're texting me a video?
No, the video I've put on hold.
Oh, okay.
I'm texting you these pictures.
Pictures. Jeez, that quickly, a belly drop. Should we show the people or no?
You can if you want to, but that's just.
I mean, it's good because you lost your belly now, so you know. But I mean, here's close up with Charles Manson. See, you could see the belly, right? And then quickly, he got Seth Rollins' belly now. So yeah, you drop real quick, man.
That's 22 pounds.
Really? Good
yeah.
Lord. Do you want to get into what you do best? You know what?
Again,
I think I might lose weight because I'm in a sauna in here. I'm dying.
Well, that sort of again, like, see, that sort of proves my point where, okay, I'm going to relax. Cabs off. I only got to do K100 once a week. There's no soccer shows to do. Am I going to relax? No. I'm going to go on the exercise bike. I'm going to go on Peloton twice a day. I'm going to go to the gym every day. I'm going to sit in a sauna and steam room, which is what I've been doing. I've been sleeping in a fat suit for the last.
Really? Do you guys sweat off shit?
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, if you guys are sitting there going, oh, you know, this guy's this, that, or the other. No, it's all like from an obsessive like, I can't relax. Like, I'm not a relaxed person at all. So yeah, like, even with those comments, like Cav says all the time, don't respond to comments or whatever. And it's like, it's the trigger in my head. Like, I probably need to see somebody or take something to calm down. But yeah, I mean, it's not gonna. I'm not really into that. I'd rather just be this way. So
let me ask you a question. When it comes to Sasha Banks, do you think, in my opinion, because obviously we got the news where she was with AJ Lee for the whole WoW state taping stuff, right? So do you think that she is released? I don't think there would be a deal for her not to say, hey, I'm let go. I could do whatever I want. Like, what would they have in writing to make her, you let me go, you fired me. You can't tell me I can't tell people I'm let go. So I think if she would have at least came out and been like, yeah, I'm not with them anymore. I can do whatever I want, and kind of be pissed off a little bit about it. So I don't think she'd keep her mouth shut.
No, I've been on top of this situation for a while, like whilst over on my Patreon page. And I've been talking about it over on K100 as well. So the situation hasn't really changed. I'll explain it to you maybe from the beginning, because I don't think we've chatted about it at all. So essentially, there is a law. It's not a law, but there's a common practice within big companies like WWE that if you exercise the option to suspend someone, and by the way, they could have fired them because what they did was technically most gross misconduct, which is a fireable offense. If you do that and you make the decision to suspend somebody, you cannot suspend somebody for a period, say 6 months or a year or whatever, without pay, because that is seen as unfairly denying somebody the opportunity to earn a living, right? So the maximum suspension at WWE is determined to be 6 weeks, right? These guys didn't get 6 weeks anyway. They got 30 days each. So once the 30 days were over, WWE have to start paying them again, on the condition that they come back to work or that they are available for work. Naomi's conversations pretty much went of the way of, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't want to leave, I will come back to work. Problem is,
she's a little bit stuck there.
Right, but her contract does expire in October, so they can either let her let her get released, or they can choose that she works these months that she's off. So it's up to them really how they play it. So she could end up working to the Rumble or whenever, but not too much, because she's already been paid. The only days that she would be working is injury dates during this deal and the 1 month of the suspension. So she was a little bit more play ball. Sasha Banks, when she was supposed to come back to work, didn't handle the phone calls herself. She handled it through an agent and through a solicitor. Now, when people turn around and go, Sasha Banks' team is organizing her release, let me tell you how stupid you sound if you reported that. Sasha Banks doesn't have a team. By the time you take away Sasha Banks' traveling costs per year and expenses on things like outfits, whatever, hair, etc., Sasha Banks earns around about the same as me per year. And I don't have a team of lawyers for anything, right? So, and I wouldn't have. So when Sasha Banks needs to deal with these things, she hires an attorney. One attorney alone would be around about $300 to $400 per hour. Okay, that's how much these things cost.
Sure.
When you're sitting there saying she has a team, You're telling me she's paying 6 or 7 people $400 or $500 an hour, right? Plus an agent. That ain't happening. Because if Sasha Banks is earning $1 million a year, trust me, she's spending about $300 to $400 a year on hotels and travel and hair and makeup, etc. Okay, so that leaves her with about 600 grand, and then she's got to pay taxes as well. She ain't got the money to have a team. She's got decent money, so she can have an attorney and whatnot, right? So she put the attorney in, and what they tried to negotiate and convince WWE is that Sasha Banks wasn't interested in wrestling, and could they grant her a release, which to prove the point, which forbid her from showing up in another company for the rest of 2022. To prove that she wasn't, her sole focus or primary focus wasn't getting back into the wrestling industry. That was the release that they tried to negotiate, because had they released her at this point, they don't want to release her, because the WWE are in a powerful position here. The position is very, very simple. Sasha Banks signed a 5-year deal in 2019. She can be let go in 2020. She can run a deal down to 2024. But if she doesn't work between now and 2024, she's going to be stuck there till 2026. If she doesn't work between 2024 and 2026, she's going to be stuck there till 2028. The deal only runs if you're actually working. That's how WWE deals work.
Yeah.
They stop for injuries. They stop for mental health breaks. They stop for all this kind of shit, right? Sasha Banks has breaks added into a deal. She has a post-Mania break usually, or she has a contract where she only has to work 32 weeks a year anyway. So she has 20 weeks off anyway, which these are not counting as that. So with Sasha Banks, WWE are in control. They've done the suspension. They've asked her to come back and to start paying her again. She said, I don't want to come back. So now she ain't getting paid. And while she's not getting paid, her contract continues to roll on and on and on. And at the moment, it's not going to be ending in September 2024. At the moment, it's going to be ending in October 2024. And every month this goes on and she doesn't come back to work or negotiate any kind of release, the contract is just going to go on and on and on and on. So they need to negotiate some sort of release here. And at the moment, they have offered the fact that she will not return to wrestling, which WWE have not accepted. And WWE have offered alternative terms to say that Sasha Banks needs to be responsible for the changing of house show advertisements where she was advertised, and to buy out the rest of her contract. So there is an offer on the table, I believe, in around about $1 million for Sasha Banks to buy herself out and not work for any other wrestling promotion until 2022. And obviously, a part of that $1 million would not be Sasha just handing him over $1 million, although she would be handing him over a large sum of that. She is owed royalties from action figures, video games, etc., and WWE, and being a present on network, etc., which would take years to pay back on those royalty checks, because sometimes if somebody watches something of you on the network or whatever, it can be like 15 cents or something. So I mean, it's not even trackable sometimes where someone actually went onto, let's say, SummerSlam 2016 or something, and somebody doesn't even watch the Sasha Banks match. She would still receive a small 15-20 cents from that. But in the end, my point is that through royalties and whatnot, it would take forever for Sasha Banks to pay back $1 million. So she would have to negotiate a sum of money that she would pay back. Then she would also need to agree what her agents put out there to say that her primary focus is on the Mercedes brand and acting, and that she doesn't want to be with a wrestling company till 2022. Now, obviously, WWE have not accepted that part of things, which is why she's there talking to WOW and as we know, and why she's looking at exhibition prices. The reason why I think she's doing that is to work out how much money Sasha Banks can actually make. So going out at $30,000 per an appearance, she would then make. She would do four of those. Let's say, would be $100 grand. She would need to do 40 of those appearances to pay her out, to buy out her WWE contract. So I think mathematically, she was putting the price out there to work out how many of these that she would need to do. The problem is with Sasha Banks is that once you do that convention, once who's the big one out there? High Spots. Say High Spots do give you $30,000, right? Then who else is going to give you $30,000 once High Spots have paid that $30,000 to you? The only thing you're going to have to do after that is you're going to have to start wrestling, which is what you told the WWE that you're not going to do. So it's difficult in this situation. It's all up in the air. It's close to being done, I feel, because she's not coming back, and WWE aren't gaining anything from her being on the shelf, but she's certainly not gaining anything from it because she's not getting any money, and her contract's just getting longer and longer and longer. I feel that in the end, what we're going to see is Sasha Banks having to come up with about, 700, 800 grand. Sasha Banks having to agree not to go to AEW for the rest of this year. And then she'll start doing conventions and wrestling.
See, that's not even a bad agreement if you say the rest of this year. It's not even 6 months. And you can just show up over there, and Daddy Tony's would give her a fortune to go over there. She'd be obviously the best wrestler there.
Well,
yeah, I'm like, she'd be on top of it immediately as their face of the women's division. She'd be the one. She'd go in and beat Jade right off the bat. Maybe that's why Tony's like hanging on and say, well, maybe we just keep this going and she'll be a nice surprise in January or something and do that. So you don't think she's going back though at all, huh? You think it's done? It's over.
She's willing to. She's talking about what it would cost to leave. Like, I mean, they're negotiating how much money she would have to pay them for their loss of for their losses. What they declare is a failure to deliver on. They're basically going after her for failure to deliver on what they promoted, which was the reason why they reluctantly removed her from the last chunk of house shows, which is why Raj Giri turned around and said she's gone, which she wasn't. That was premature in saying that she's gone, but it was a big sign, a big indicator when they removed her from a bunch of dates and she wasn't going to be at SummerSlam and she wasn't going to be at those dates. It pretty much said that, we're not advertising Sasha Banks with it. That is what she is liable for. Now, it's impossible to turn around and say how many tickets that she's cost them. They're not going to be able to prove that she's not. But if we go to court and they do try and prove that, who's it going to hurt more to pay the court fees, WWE or Sasha Banks? Because ultimately they will win. It won't be a case of they won't be able to turn around and say Sasha Banks cost us $1 million, right? So they will only have to say she only has to pay them $250,000, but she will then be responsible for her legal fees. And when you lose a court case, which she will lose because she did walk out and she didn't turn up, so there is liability there, she would then have to pay their legal fees as well. So one way or another, they will make her, she will lose over $500,000, right?
Yeah.
And that's what they
just
want
fighting,
to do.
yeah.
That's that they want to make her, if they go, they don't care about
I'm going to bleed her.
They don't actually care about her paying $750,000 to them or $1 million or whatever. They just want her to have to lose the money. So if she has to go to court to get out of this, she doesn't have a case because she was responsible for them not delivering what they're advertised. She is responsible for that. It's a fact. She is liable. She does owe them money. What it is doesn't matter. If they say 750 and if the court say it's $100, right? If the court say it's $100. Only 2 people would have turned up to pay for Sasha Banks on all these house shows, right? These 37 house shows. 2 guys. She still has to pay her solicitor like for every day of the hearing and the WWE's legal fees, right? So there's no, she can't win this case. So yeah, this is where we're at. It's just all very, very who blinks first kind of thing.
Do you have anything else in the news other than that? Because I had one question it was more of an opinion about something from SummerSlam. If you don't have anything else, and then we can close out.
Yeah. So like big news bits this week was. So I don't know if you've been following, but I suppose we might as well talk about it here. There is concern about The Rock not doing Mania. because John Cena pulled out of SummerSlam, and John Cena said that he had I've forgotten it again. Peacemaker. He said he had insurance issues with the filming of the TV series of the Peacemaker, which he did not tell them before when he made himself available for SummerSlam. And he did tell them after Vince McMahon was in the media for, what he was in the media for.
Sure.
So suddenly, Cena's available, and then John Cena says, I have insurance problems now. They're giving me, I can't work the show. Now, this could be true, but there is a belief that John Cena does not really have these issues, and he's using it as a reason to be away from the WWE right now. Further evidence of that is the fact that John Cena told my friends, some of my friends who are involved in Wales Comic Con, that he wasn't available to do Comic Con, and because he was with the WWE for August. And now on August the 7th and 6th and 7th, he's doing the Wales Comic Con as the main guest. So something is really not adding up there. And it bodes badly for The Rock, because we don't know what the situation is going to be in March, April, whenever, but you're going to need a commitment from The Rock soon. And if John Cena is saying, I need to get away from this situation, then maybe The Rock will say, I need to get away from this situation right now.
See, it's so soft to me. If that's the case, where it's like, I need to distance myself from, calm down. I love that everybody gets on their high horse. Like, they didn't know Vince is,
it's important to reiterate, this is not Cena's actual reason. Cena did not tell the WWE, oh, hey, I can't do this right now. Like, there's too much heat on the company or whatever. He was smart, and he said, the Peacemaker, the Peacemaker people are not allowing me to do it. But there is also a feeling that are you drinking C4?
Yeah.
I get that in my gym now. Do you like
Starburst?
I like the blue.
I only do Starburst. Only the Starburst. That and usually the strawberry Starburst is unbelievable. But I get them Amazon now.
I need to look on Amazon because I'm paying for those at a gym, like about £3 a can. So
here's the thing though with Cena, because I think if he really was on his high horse and said, I can't be around Vince and this and that, he wouldn't have went to the whole 20-year thing. He would have been, that was when it was the most hot. He would have been like, no, I'm not showing up in the middle of this. This is right in the middle of the storm.
But they already promoted that, and he didn't wrestle, did he?
No, but he could have just been like, I'm not going there. If all hell broke loose, you'd just be like, I'm just not going. I'm not going to be seen there.
Yeah, but you're missing the point. He hasn't told them that's the reason. This is what people that I spoke to expect. The official thing is the Peacemaker, the insurance for the Peacemaker is not allowing me to wrestle. That's it. That's all we know. So he still did the appearance, because the appearance was promoted, and they even built towards the Theory thing that night. It was only after the appearance that they told them. Otherwise, I don't think you would have seen him and Theory actually building a match that night, which is what they did.
I think you could plant that seed, so it's like way down the road. So I don't think any harm, any foul. Cena didn't even do it. He stood there and listened to him and turned around and left. So.
Theory wasn't winning Money in the Bank until Cena was pulled out, because they needed something huge for Theory this summer. They want to get Theory in this position. Beating John Cena was how you did that. The Money in the Bank was the thing that they did instead. Obviously, we know this Money in the Bank was supposed to go to Seth Rollins to hold on to for Cody to come back. Now it's weird because you've done the injury angle, and Cody comes back for Seth for what reason? What's the match? You did Hell in a Cell. You only had a ladder match left to do for the Money in the Bank, and now it's a confusing situation. Do you know the story of Ronda Rousey asking to lose to live? Or
I only know that she asked to, but you said I only saw a message from you that said there was a lot more in it than people are reporting, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah, there's a lot more in it. It's basically just to simplify it. Becky was doing the big I've lost everything storyline. So, and what they were going to do was make SummerSlam the night where she hit complete rock bottom. So she was supposed to have it. So for weeks, I was getting this format sheet, right? And it said SummerSlam was Bianca versus Becky Lynch. But it also said Becky Lynch was winning Money in the Bank. So I was like, how do you do both? Is she cashing in versus Bianca? No. That's a regularly planned match. So you never see like the Money in the Bank person getting the title shot. So, but this is what they were going to do. So the plan was crazy. It was going to be for Becky to challenge Bianca as the number one contender and to still have the Money in the Bank, which she was going to say, I'm saving for Ronda because I'm going to be Becky Two Belts once again. So it's a Becky Two Belts storyline. So she was telling her she was going to go into SummerSlam telling people that by the end of SummerSlam, I'm going to be Becky Two Belts again. The plan was for her to lose to Bianca, cash in on Ronda, and cash in too.
Oh, right? Man.
Yeah. So this would set her up to be at the absolute bottom. You now booked her down to the bottom, at which point she would then win Rumble, obviously, and she would pick Ronda to redeem herself against the most humiliating moment of her career. That was the story. Of which Ronda Rousey said, we don't need to do this story. This is stupid. Like, we don't need to go this far into it. Like, Becky can already fail against Bianca. She's already lost to Bianca twice. She doesn't need to cash in on me to do this storyline as well. Like, why don't we give it to Liv? Now, this is crazy because this is the second time this year where it's been a case of, Ronda doesn't care and Brock doesn't care. These are mercenaries. These are money people. These are UFC people that want their payday. Yeah. Brock did something earlier on this year which proved that he cared. A few things actually, like I don't want to team up with the Viking Raiders was one of them.
God bless him.
And now Ronda's like, look, we don't need to go this deep with a storyline. Like, we're wasting all of this stuff on Becky. Yeah. Becky can beat me. Like, Becky can beat me without me needing to beat Becky first. Like, we don't need to set this up. Like, so Ronda sacrificed being put over super strong, which would have been winning her SummerSlam match and then being cashed in on by Becky and beating Becky as well straight after a SummerSlam match. I imagine in about 3 she would have done Becky after a match and beaten her in about 3-4 minutes, which would have made Becky look crazy like bad and crazy like rock bottom and would have made Ronda look amazing. To which Ronda decided, we don't need to do this. Like, we've got Liv Morgan here. I'd rather do this storyline with Liv. And I think one of the things they also want to do is also get Ronda to a heel where she feels more comfortable. So yeah, this is the story with that. And so I'm sort of rehashing stuff that you've missed. But the news story for this week, I'm just going to read it out so we can close out. Stephanie McMahon is legitimately running WWE. So I'll paraphrase what I've written here. Now, you probably, like many other people, and you even said it, I think, in a group chat, we all thought that putting Stephanie in was a way for Vince to really run the company through Steph, as if she would be some kind of mouthpiece, right? Well, actually what's happened is there's a massive feeling with a lot of people that I've spoken to that Triple H and Stephanie mission. Like, that's not what's happening at all. These two people had their roles reduced by Vince in the last 12 to 18 months in favor of bringing in people that were hired by Nick Khan to do their jobs. In the last few weeks, Stephanie and Triple H have held talks with Logan Paul, Jake Paul, Tyson Fury, and Conor McGregor. They signed legend deals with Mick Foley, Kurt Angle, and Scott Hall's estate. They installed Shawn Michaels as the lead booker of NXT 2.0, with Triple H returning as the producer. Make Gigi the champion, please. They've pushed for several SummerSlam matches that were planned to be moved to Clash of the Castle to rejuvenate faltering ticket sales in order to avoid ending the UK pay-per-view initiative and change the SummerSlam capacity to 38,120. So they want to sell that first. They've configured the arena to do that and prioritize Clash of the Castle. Obviously, if there's a demand in the final week, they'll try and sell 10,000 tickets. But SummerSlam is set up at the moment for a minimum of 38,000, which they are 1,000 away from. They've engaged with disgruntled second-tier partners who are non-TV partners, such as Mattel and 2K, to improve future relationships. And They have improved the variety of house show merchandise available, which talents have complained about for a long time, which subsequently resulted in a huge weekend for Liv Morgan last weekend, who never had merchandise at the house shows before, only on the .com. And also, we've seen the news about the TV-14 thing. This is something that Vince McMahon has pushed back for years, because the philosophy in WWE is we build new fans as children and we grow up with them, and then we go back to being mature. And then once those fans get older, we then go back to PG. It's supposed to be PG-14, PG then 14, PG then 14. And that's exactly what happened with us. You know, we watched the Hogan, and then we grew up with the Austin. You know, for me, I was 13, 14, you were 18, 19, whatever. Like, that's what they did. And now they're trying to do it again. The reason they're finally pulling the trigger after postponing and postponing and postponing, the biggest drop-off of WWE fans is after the age of 11. They are losing 11 to 18-year-olds twice as much as any other. They are holding quite well 20 to 24. They are not losing anyone over 40, and they are growing fans between 0 to 9 years old. The 11-year-olds are leaving like the Titanic, 11 to 18, and I am witnessing that myself. My son doesn't watch Raw. And it's difficult to get him to watch anything. With YouTube being there, top 10s, all of that, and with the amount of times he wants to go out to skate parks, play football, play tennis, watch soccer, play soccer, be online on his games or whatever. You know, he's no way got time for 4.5 hours of wrestling. He just don't do it. So I'm witnessing that myself. So this is what they're trying to tackle. It's not about saying and prick and doing sex storylines and what people are hoping for. The main thing is, let's stop losing the 11-year-olds from this product. So that's what's actually going on, and that's what and Triple H and Stephanie are doing a lot more than people think. And it's not something where it's like, oh, Vince is there and Stephanie is Vince's mouthpiece. No, that's not happening. These people are running the company, which nobody expected. So yeah, that's the big thing this week.
I didn't say that. It wasn't me with the thinking that she would be the mouthpiece. I've said I wanted Triple H in charge of this thing for ages, and people say, oh, you know, he's not going to be any good. He buries people, this and that. I just look at how NXT was ran before, and if that was on the main brand stuff, I'd be completely fine with it. Like, just, you know, Ciampa, Gargano, that whole storyline, it was gritty. Anything like that. And you see what NXT became with the graphics and the lighting and all that kind of stuff. I just want it to go the way of old NXT. And if you brought that over to the network stuff, you know, SmackDown and Raw and everything like that, I think it would just be better. And I think Triple H cares about, you know, the business and all that kind of stuff. So that's what I was hoping for, and looks like we might be getting it. So good.
Let me close out with the craziest revelation of the week. Last thing I only found out today. So obviously, you know, my boy likes to go and meet the wrestlers. You know, only not like constantly the same people over in time, but obviously has his checklist as you would do. And the one guy missing on his checklist, Brock Lesnar. So we obviously Brock Lesnar doesn't come to the UK. He wants to go and meet Brock at SummerSlam. We've been told that it is not possible unless you go down to the airport. Brock Lesnar travels in his own, what's it called? What are they called? The bus? The bus. Is there a name for those buses?
the tour bus, yeah.
The living bus.
Yeah,
and the living bus, he lives in it to the point where he doesn't stay in the hotel. The living bus goes to the hotel where the
Parks in their
WWE
garage.
And Brock is in it. So if you want to meet Brock Lesnar, you have to go to the part of the hotel where you need to find the living bus that he's in and wait for him to come out of it. So if it's a case of sitting in the hotel, like having drinks, having a meal, whatever, hanging out with the guys that we know and go, oh, look, there's Brock over there, that ain't going to happen. So, yeah, Brock Lesnar super hates people. He won't even stay in a 5-star hotel where there's hardly going to be any fans, just in case he has to talk. Just in case he has to talk to like 3-4 of them who have got the money to stay there. He still will rather sleep out in his bus.
He's grossed out by the people.
He's grossed out by the people. So that, I think, is not going to happen for Austin this summer.
Well, I wish you guys the best. We're going to get a lot of info from Billy along the way when he's at SummerSlam. We're going to get some stories, and I'm sure he'll be tweeting things out on a different Twitter that won't get suspended. Or, you know what? If he feeds me stuff, I'll put it out at Lingus Mafia, and we could do it that way. By the way, we were attacking the guy who said, I'm the one who got Billy suspended. Like one person complaining is going to get your Twitter gone. But all my people started blasting the hell out of this guy. He's some quote unquote famous rapper and he has 45 followers, which one of my guys named Creepy Crutchfield, who watches porn for us and reviews it, has 42 followers. So he's that close to the famous rapper. As many followers.
Let's get the plugs in quickly. So
Go ahead.
I have a Twitter. It's at the Billy Barty. So check up the spelling of my name. It's BILLI and lockbetting.com is where you can get my betting picks. August is the start of the financial year, and futures for the soccer season are going to be out in the end of July. So in early August, they're still going to be there. The soccer futures, you're going to get the US Open tennis, and you're going to get NFL futures as well. We are going to be doing our NFL show this year on the Lock Betting podcast, which is free. And it begins, we're going to release our first episode just a few days before SummerSlam. So I haven't got an exact date. It's going to be an all-star cast. It's a SummerSlam betting preview. We're lining up the names right now who are going to make guest appearances to talk about it. Big launch show. So just go to wherever you get podcasts and download the Lock Betting podcast. That's now going to be a podcast where we're going to be covering wrestling betting, and that's where all of our NFL stuff is going to be this year. For those of you that listened last year, me and Cav absolutely killed it last season, and that's going to be an exclusive place where we're going to be doing WWE betting and the NFL show, and that is free for you guys. So make sure you download that podcast. But if you want to get my premium picks, lockbetting.com.
Patreon.com/Lingus Mafia. All my nonsense. Just go to anywhere you get podcasts and just type in Lingus Mafia, because we do one called The Wrestlingus Show where we do all your wrestling reviews, and it is not a normal review show. Check it out and find out. And go follow my boy. It's at Creepy Crutch. And get him more followers than this rapper who supposedly got Billy thrown off. Let's stick it in that guy's, I don't want to make Husey have to keep on editing here. We've done enough for him already. So for Mr. Billy Body, I'm Cab Manning. See you next time.
You hit me up for diet tips, guys.